If you own a home, you've been there. The cold hits, your old furnace starts making that terrible wheezing noise, and you finally decide, okay, it's time for a replacement.
Hmm.
You start pulling quotes, and that's when the real chill sets in.
It's always the fine print, isn't it? Those lines that, they seem so harmless, but they turn a firm quote into a lottery ticket.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking about additional charges may
Yeah.
apply or subject to final inspection.
Yeah.
And my personal favorite, the one that screams risk, unforeseen material costs.
Exactly. For any big home project, but especially a furnace, that kind of vagueness, it just shifts the entire financial burden right onto you, the homeowner.
It does.
The quote looks low, but the final bill, it's a complete mystery. And that is how customer trust evaporates.
Well, and that's the key. Homeowners in Amarillo, when they're searching for new furnace installation Amarillo cost, they're not really just looking for the lowest number.
Yeah.
They're searching for certainty. They need to know, without a shadow of a doubt, the exact figure they will pay, anything less. And the contractor's just asking the customer to underwrite their own mistakes.
So, okay, that is our mission for this deep dive. We are going to pull back the curtain on those vague, risk-shifting pricing strategies.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to examine a different solution. The Borowski IWG promise, what you see is what you get. It's a fixed price model for a furnace installation that's all about transparency and efficiency.
And we're going to look at how that approach, which really demands a high level of professionalism, it just eliminates all that sales friction and anxiety for the homeowner. It's really about risk versus certainty.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Section 1, the hidden costs. Because those initial quotes, the ones that seem almost too good to be true, they are banking on hidden fees.
That's the entire strategy. The contractors shield themselves. They intentionally understate the cost of certain parts of the job because they know they have these little clauses, these mechanisms in the fine print to recover those costs and then some.
Right, once they're already in your house and you're committed.
Exactly.
So let's start with a classic. Tactic number 1, what we call the tear-out tax, unexpected demolition fees. I mean, it seems simple, right? Take out the old, put in the new.
Well, the big deal is logistics and compliance. You aren't just tossing a cardboard box. You're dealing with hundreds of pounds of metal, old gas piping, and sometimes materials that need specific environmental handling, especially in a place like Pampa or Amarillo.
And the trap is that the, quote, lists removal as some small standard service.
Mm-hmm.
But then, buried in the terms, they reserve the right to hit you with a big disposal fee or an environmental surcharge or, and this is the killer, a difficult access charge.
Difficult access charge. Think about that. If your unit is in a tiny attic or a muddy crawl space or they have to cut into a wall,
That's instant added labor.
instant added labor and risk, and under that vague quote, they get to charge you for it after they've already started.
So how does the YSIWG model, the fixed price model, handle that? Because you can't change where the furnace is.
It's all resolved up front. The fixed price includes the full, safe tear-out and the compliant disposal, regardless of where it is or how hard it is to get out.
So if it's a tough job.
That difficulty is assessed before the quote is given,
Yeah.
and it's built into that single upfront price.
Hmm.
It's not a surprise fee later. The company owns the risk of the logistics.
Okay, that makes sense for labor. But this is where it gets really insidious because it's not always about labor, it's about the equipment itself. Let's talk tactic 2, oversized systems and unnecessary upgrades.
Oh, this is a classic. It's a bait and switch from a performance perspective. Look, every single reputable HVAC specialist knows you have to perform what's called a manual J-load calculation.
Right.
It's scientific. It ensures the new furnace is sized perfectly for the house square footage, insulation, windows, the whole 9 yards, specific to the Amarillo climate.
But the trap is the sales-focused contractor. Maybe they're on commission, they push a bigger furnace, a higher BTU unit than you actually need.
Yeah, they sell it as better performance or heats up faster, making you feel like you're getting an upgrade.
But it's really just padding their commission.
Of course. And the real-world consequence for you is something called short cycling. The unit is so powerful, it heats the space way too quickly. It hits the thermostat setting before it's actually had a chance to properly circulate the air.
So it's not just wasting energy, it's a comfort issue too. You get hot and cold spots.
Absolutely. The furnace is just slamming on and off all day.
Mm-hmm.
That puts a ton of stress on the most expensive parts, the heat exchanger, the fan motor.
So you paid more for a unit that's going to fail years before it's supposed to.
Precisely. It's like forcing a sprinter to run 100 yards, stop, then immediately sprint again over and over. They burn out.
Right.
The WYSI with DIG model is built on that data-driven manual J calculation. They sell you what you need for optimal efficiency, not what gets them the biggest check. The integrity of the process is part of the price.
Which brings us to section 2. And this is what I think is the most dangerous trap of all. The unforeseen conditions clause. If the tear-out tax is the nickel and dime trap, this thing is the contractual sledgehammer.
It is. This is the broad disclaimer that lets a contractor charge extra for, well, any issue they discover once they start the work. It's the ultimate escape hatch for a company that rushed their initial look.
You are literally signing a blank check for surprises. What are the big ones this clause usually covers?
Okay, there are three main culprits. First, venting and flue issues.
Yeah.
Your old furnace might have single-wall venting. The new high-efficiency one needs a special, expensive double-wall flue. If they didn't check that up front, that could be a $2,000, $3,000, even $4,000 charge instantly.
Wow. And that's based on a pre-existing condition you had no way of knowing about.
Exactly. Second is electrical code upgrades. Older homes in Amarillo, they often don't have the right dedicated circuit for a modern furnace. If the team finds they need to run new wiring to meet safety code.
That's another huge unexpected bill.
Right. And the third one is ductwork compromises. They might find hidden damage, collapsed runs, or even, old asbestos tape on the seals that needs abatement. The job just stops until you agree to a new, massively inflated price.
So how does the fixed price model protect against this? I mean, the only way is just with intense preparation, right?
That's the only way. The fixed price model requires a comprehensive pre-installation assessment. They inspect the entire existing system, electrical, venting, ducts, before a quote is ever even generated.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate. That sounds great, but if the company owns all that risk, won't they just jack up the fixed price by, say, 30% to cover their bets?
That's a fair question, but it actually speaks to efficiency. A really meticulous, standardized assessment minimizes their risk, which lets them offer a competitive fixed price. They're not padding it. They're just investing the time to do a zero-mistake estimate.
So if they do find an issue, like the electrical needs upgrading,
then the fixed cost for that specific correction is included and itemized in the initial proposal. The price on the contract is the final price, period. If they miss something, that costly mistake is on them, not you.
that is a fundamental difference in how it should operate. It forces them to be experts at quoting, not just installation.
It's their core expertise.
Okay, so this brings us to section 3. Let's break down the 3 specific components that actually build this certainty into that fixed price quote.
And what's really interesting here is that the certainty you give the homeowner, it translates directly into trust and loyalty for the company. It's a long-term strategy.
Let's start with component 1, the new unit itself. How does the fixed price model handle the actual equipment?
So this is the fixed cost for the specific model you choose, and it has to be presented with total clarity. Not just the brand, but its AFUE rating, the annual fuel utilization efficiency, plus all the warranty details and what you can expect in energy savings.
And for anyone listening, AFUE in simple terms.
Think of it like MPG for your car. An old furnace might be 80% AFUE, meaning 20 cents of every dollar you spend on fuel just goes up the chimney. A new one could be 95% AFUE. That's a huge savings over a Texas winter.
And the quote locks in that specific unit.
It locks it in. The fixed price for the unit includes the furnace, the thermostat, whether it's a basic one or a smart thermostat, and all the connecting parts. And crucially, that price will never change after you sign, even if their supplier's prices go up.
All right, component 2. This is where the risk is usually hidden. Labor and site-specific work. We've said it's a fixed fee, but how do they justify that if a job just drags on?
This is the core of the whole promise. It is a fixed fee for the installation labor, not an hourly rate that can balloon. It's based entirely on the complexity they found during that pre-installation inspection.
So let's go back to that tough crawl space example. They quote a fixed labor amount, but the job takes 2 guys a whole day longer than they thought. Who pays for that?
The company does. That is the labor guarantee. The customer pays the exact same fixed price. If the company underestimates the work, that inefficiency is a financial hit for them, not for the homeowner.
That shifts the responsibility for accurate scheduling right back onto the experts, where it belongs.
Absolutely. Which brings us to the final piece, component 3. This covers all the necessary things that are so often left out or treated as add-ons. We're talking permits, disposal, and the warranty.
Let's start with permits. Why is that so critical?
Because skipping a permit isn't just cutting a corner. It can invalidate your homeowner's insurance and opens you up to huge liability. All major HVAC work in Amarillo and Pampa requires a permit to make sure it's up to code.
So the fixed price has to include that.
It has to include applying for the permits and guaranteeing the final inspection passes. You should never be the one chasing city inspectors.
And what about warranties? It can get confusing with the manufacturer versus the installer.
The quote needs to spell out both. You get the manufacturer's warranty on the parts, but just as important is a full multi-year warranty on the labor. If they installed it, they guarantee their workmanship, period.
And to bring it full circle, that disposal and cleanup fee we talked about in the beginning?
Yes, that's guaranteed in Component 3. The safe, compliant removal and disposal of the old unit is fully included, with a promise to leave the area cleaner than they found it. No surprises.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? The goal here wasn't just to talk about the pitfalls of furnace shopping, but to really demonstrate a fundamental difference in how a professional trade should operate. You should expect clarity and a firm budget.
Choosing a company for your furnace, it shouldn't involve guesswork or anxiety. This kind of transparency guarantees peace of mind, so you can just focus on having a warm home for the winter instead of dreading an escalating invoice.
Don't settle for a quote that leaves room for interpretation. Demand certainty. The fixed price model, it sets a new standard. And if this level of certainty can apply to something as complex as a furnace, think about this. What does this mean for how you approach budgeting for every high-value investment in your home? You should demand the same level of fixed pricing and pre-assessment for everything, from roofing to plumbing. It's a standard of expectation that shifts the risk back to the expert where it belongs, and it is the only way to guarantee you get exactly what you paid for.